Hello, my name is Zach Taylor. I teach English language arts at the secondary level. And what I wanted to show you today is just a quick tutorial using polleverywhere.com. Now, I haven't used this in a long time, but I've used it previously, and I'm definitely coming back this next school year to use this again because there's a lot of great features in it. It's very useful, and it just makes teaching and introducing concepts a little bit easier, and it's a fun way to engage students. So uh, you can see here at the top of the screen, here's the URL, www.polleverywhere.com. I'm going to show you how to log in. Now, the reason why I'm going to the login page and not the sign up page is because what I typically do is I sign up using my work email. And the reason why I do this is because it allows me to sign in with my Google Drive account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can see it's already synced to my work email. Now I'm already logged into my Google Drive, so it just immediately goes in there. But I always find that really quick and easy to be able to log into a lot of these online web tools using your email, any email, but syncing it to your Google Drive. It just makes it so much easier to have access to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a way to get students to be able to respond to a question, and that way you can already have your poll set up on your screen. Um, so there's a couple different ways that students can respond to a question. And then, so my first question I have up here is, what is the most powerful word in the English language? Okay, there's a lot of different ways that I can have students respond, but I'm just going to walk you through. Here's what it looks like when it appears on your screen. So if you come over to the right here, you have a list of things you can click on: visual settings, activate, show results, lock, clear results, full screen. Make sure that you click on activate. Now I've already had it activated, so here it's going to turn light blue. But if I click on it a second time and it turns dark blue, that means that it's activated and now students can respond. If I come over here to the far right where it says configure, test, and present, the first tab says how people can respond. This is where you can click the little boxes to signify here's how I want students to be able to have access to this question. So they can either go to the website, which it gives you a link, it gives you a URL, or you can have them text their response. Either way, and if I click on one of these, you can see in the middle of the screen here, it changes which access the students have to be able to respond. Now, for me, I don't necessarily mind them using the URL or to text. I use Chromebooks in my classroom, and the students can always sign them out. Um, I also allow my students to use their cell phones for various reasons. Now, it all depends on your campus, what their cell phone policy is at your campus that you're teaching at. But I do allow my students some access to their cell phones during class. So I would typically allow them to have a choice between either one of these, but more than likely, they're going to wind up using the website because if I have the Chromebooks out, we're using them for other purposes as well. Audience restrictions and identity, I usually open it to everyone. Screen name, though, I do tell the students to have some discretion how they want their screen name to be. Obviously, it's got to be something that's school appropriate. But I do warn them not to use their actual name. And one thing that you can do as a teacher is you can provide screen names for the students so that not only are they anonymous to other students, but you know specifically who they are. So it's much easier for you to track students' responses. Or you can also do it completely anonymous. That's up to you. I know a lot of students are a little nervous their first time when they get on these kind of survey type or discussion board type websites, that they're a little nervous about using their own name, mainly because they're worried, if they get a question wrong or they put a response down that's not favorable to other students, that they feel a little insecure about that. So nothing wrong with that. Um, but I would probably lean more towards using the screen name and maybe providing screen names for the students. Response settings. You notice here that I have it clicked as many times as they like. However, I would typically go ahead and limit the amount of times because you don't want a student just answering multiple times, and that could throw off the results that you really want. So I usually limit the amount of times that they can respond. Allow changes or don't allow changes. It depends. Do you want students to be able to respond and see other responses and then change their response, or do you want to get a little bit more initial accurate response? Typically, I don't have students reply uh, to the message. That's something that we're going to do as a whole class discussion later. So I would probably click that there's no reply to any message on that. Schedule lock and unlock times. This is important for me because I usually have these types of questions posted at the beginning of class. Is something that I want them to do as their warm up, or something I'm going to have them do as an exit ticket. And it's usually limited to 5 to 10 minutes, especially if they're coming into the class. I want them to immediately be able to jump on this. And then as soon as I'm done taking attendance, that tardy bell is ringing, I'm ready to go over these answers. Um, so I typically would set a parameter of time that they have to respond, and if they don't get to respond in that time, then they can clearly respond after the fact. They just won't be able to respond within this particular survey. Next, I'm going to go to is test. This is pretty interesting because if you want to uh, add your own answer, I'm not going to do it at this point, but if you want to add your own answer to your question and just to see gauge how the responses are going to come in, then you can do that quickly, and then have your students respond. And then present. Easiest way to present is to click the multiple arrows, the full screen arrows here. Uh, and this is after all the responses have come in. Or, and I didn't know this before, but you can also download it as a Google Slides presentation, or you can have it as a PowerPoint presentation. And my students use Google Slides all the time. We use PowerPoint all the time. And what's great with Google Slides is you can upload that to your Google Drive and save it for later. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go back to my home page, and I'm going to walk you through how to create one of these. Okay, so I clicked on the create button, and it gives you a lot of different options of the type of questions that you can ask. Multiple choice, obvious, how to do a multiple choice question. But one of the cool things with multiple choice that you can do is, instead of presenting 4 answer choices where 3 of them are incorrect and 1 is correct, I like to create multiple choice questions where 3 of them are correct and 1 answer choice is incorrect. And what I ask the students is, pick the slip up. Which one is not the correct answer choice? And that usually is pretty effective because then it allows students to think backwards, and it's a little bit of fun to pick the one that's wrong, as opposed to always having to pick that question, the answer that's right. And usually that helps students with anxiety, that they know certain answer choices are correct, but they can definitely pick the one that's definitely incorrect. The next one is the word cloud. This one is a lot of fun because, like that question I asked, what is the most powerful word in the English language? You're going to get a lot of different responses. There's going to be a lot of variety in the response. And you can also save this as a Wordle later, and then maybe print it off and post it somewhere in the classroom. Question and answer, pretty simple. Pose a question, you'll get an answer, but you'll also get a variety. This one, clickable image, is one of my favorites because you can either select some of the images that they have already, or you can upload images of your own. Me personally, and you can see going through my flash drive, Let's see, funny pictures. Um, really into Marvel right now. So if I wanted to post a picture of Captain America, I could select a picture of that, and maybe I can ask the students a question about this picture, have them analyze and interpret the picture, or I can actually ask them to come up with a title or a caption, and maybe limit the words, like maybe come up with a 6-word title for this picture, or describe something interesting in this picture. And so you'll get a lot of different varieties of responses. And so that for me is a lot of fun to play around with, because I use a lot of visual images in my classroom, and it's especially something useful for English language learners as well. Survey questions. Clearly, you're conducting a survey. Um, you're trying to get a view of where students, or how students are thinking, and just it's a great way to engage the students in their thinking. But it also gives you the option of, again, uploading a picture. So you can use images as your answer. So which image represents this concept, that sort of thing. I'm going to switch over to a different web source, which is Backchannel Chat. And I'm going to compare this to using Poll Everywhere. Backchannel is really great because it's like a discussion forum. It's an online discussion forum. I would not pick one of these over the other, Poll Everywhere or Backchannel. I would maybe use them simultaneously. Maybe use the Poll Everywhere as an initial way to engage students, and then maybe go to Backchannel as a much deeper discussion, a way of getting a lot deeper discussions, especially during a lesson. You can poll the students at the beginning of the class, and then have a set of discussion questions as you're going through the lesson that students can be responding to and engaged with, as on the Backchannel as you're doing your discussion. So these I would use simultaneously. I wouldn't pick one over the other. Quickly, I'm going to go to pricing and upgrades. I use this for free. Now, you can pay for a subscription, but it's not really necessary. Use the free plan that they offer, because you can get uh, up to 40 responses. So if you have a class size for anywhere from 25 to 30 students, then that's enough room, enough space for responses to come through. And then it shows you all the different features that come with it. Using the upgrade is just going to allow you a couple more features, but you can always use just the free account. And again, this is not something I'm going to use throughout the entire lesson, just something I'm going to use at the beginning of a lesson, or maybe at the end as an exit ticket. Now, why use these, Poll Everywhere or even Backchannel? Well, it helps engage students, not only just getting them engaged in what you plan to teach for that day, but it's also a really important developmental aspect of um, having accountable talk in your classroom, but also helping students to build social skills. When students can see responses from their peers, that helps them to see that, oh, these other students are thinking in these different terms, so maybe I should be thinking on that level too. It helps them to compare and contrast their own response, and do some self evaluation. So all that's really important with helping students to develop their understanding in the classroom, and develop socially in the classroom as well. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Like I said, I'm going to come back to utilizing this tool more often. I find it very useful. I hope you do as well. Um, it's really easy to set up, and there's a lot of great ways that you can ask questions on here that can really expand your pedagogy in the classroom.